hope you're doing well. My name is Claire. I have the privilege of being the founder of this channel. I'm a nutritionist enthusiast and I totally believe in total wellness. If you're new here again, great that you could step by today. And I've been chatting about from this beginning of the year the time for us to take time to reset. And it's not a different thing. We're going to go straight into today's topic because I don't have much time. I've got to go for my normal Wednesday meeting. And so it's like quarter past 6, and the meeting starts at 7, and I still have to have dinner and do other things before the rest of the day. So I'll quickly go straight into reset number 3, which is spiritual reset. I believe that human beings are spiritual beings. You and I are created with a desire in us to connect with a spiritual being. You might tell me that you're not a Christian, or I don't believe in God or believe in whatever. But today I want to challenge you and say that we have all been created with a void within us. And so that void will desire for us to be able to worship something. And if you don't worship God, for example, you'll find yourself looking for something else to worship. Some of us end up worshiping status. Some of us end up worshiping even ourselves, worshiping our families, our wives, our husbands, our children. But if you are somebody that has already discovered that purpose and you know your purpose as a Christian, you need to get to a point where you can have what is called a spiritual reset. What do I mean by spiritual reset? Spiritual reset is where you get to a point and you say, I'm going to get some time out with God, seek some spiritual guidance, do some resetting, do some retreating, time alone with God, time alone with your maker, time alone with what you believe in. We live in a noisy world. This world will speak so many things at us, against us. We live in a world where so many things are being screamed at us. We find that the world is really screaming, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're that. They want to define you with your mistakes. They want to define you with your past. And you can never run away from these things if you don't get to a point where you decide, well, I'm going to go on a retreat. I'm going to go on a rest. I'm going to take some Sabbath times and Sabbath rhythms. We were never meant to be people that just keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And that's sometimes what we do, which have been challenging us to say we are not meant to be on replay mode, sorry. Some of us are just in that moment that it gets to a point where we miss our relevance. We get to a point we don't connect anymore with our spirituality. We don't connect anymore with God. And it feels like kind of something that is a norm for us, but it wasn't never meant to be so. And hence it can be something that is relevant or important for us to get to a point where we think, every time, what do I build in times within my daily rhythm, within my day-to-day time, where I can actually be able to reset spiritually, get to a point where I can understand, who am I? Whose am I? Those are important questions in life, right? Who do I believe in? What are the values that I believe in? What are the things that really make my heart tick? It's not because I'm a mother. It's not because I'm a wife. It's not because I'm a sister. But who am I really? The core of me. Who am I? What was I created to be? What purpose was I created with? What am I supposed to fulfill as long as I'm alive, as long as I'm awake? And some of us are grappling with the truth, trying to understand, trying to go through those processes, moments, and understanding, what am I doing on this world? Why was I created to be on this world, even for the first time in the first places? If you found your purpose, that's amazing. You always have to go back to that drawing board to ask yourself, am I still living to fulfill my purpose? And if you've not found your purpose, so to say, you can't just continue being on a roller coaster. You can't just continue being on a replay mode and you're like going year after year after year. And I can see some of you live with me. Good to have you here this evening. You can't just be in that place where you're like year after year after year after year. I just do life the way I need to do life. We have to get to a point where you're like going back to the drawing board, asking yourself those pertinent questions, because whether we like it or not, you cannot fulfill the purpose of which you don't know what it is. Your purpose is really divine in itself. Your purpose is divine in nature. And you can only know that purpose when you connect back to your spirituality, when you connect back to that place of Whose am I? When you don't know whose you are, people will label you with names. People will label you with your mistakes. People will label you with your past. Have you ever had a conflict with someone and then that person reminds you 10 years ago what you did, 20 years ago what you did, and you start feeling rubbish about yourself? Oscar can see you. You start feeling rubbish about who you are. You start feeling rubbish about your being. You start, James, I can see you, thanks. You can start feeling really terrible of who you are and all those kind of things. But when you choose to say, I will take time to go and find out, have a retreat, have a chance, have a moment to sit down and say to yourself, until I discover who I am, until I discover my purpose in this year, I'm not going to leave this place. It could be maybe a daily rhythm. It could be something that can be, there could be a weekly rhythm. It could be something that it can be really, really in different ways that you can get to a point where you're like, I want to know who I am. I want to get to the root of who I am. I want to get to the core of who I am. Because if you live with those values in life, fundamental principles, understanding your purpose, understanding why you're created, understanding why are you in this world, then you will get to a point where somebody once says, if you don't know the purpose of something, abuse is inevitable. If you don't know the purpose of your life, somebody will abuse you and you'll be okay with it, right? And it can be so annoying. The same way, like James is saying, it can be really annoying when people misuse us, so to say. And because it's not because they really want to misuse us. It's just because sometimes because they don't understand our value. And neither do we understand our values. Neither do we understand who we are and whose we are. And so I want to challenge anyone that is listening to me today, who is under the sound of my voice. Let's awaken our hearts and that desire to say 2025 is a year of discovering who I am. Is a year of exploring and finding out clear who really are you. And when you start to do those retreats, for example, spiritually and resetting spiritually, sometimes you'll unearth some things that will be annoying. You'll unearth some things you'll be like, I never thought this could be me. At the moment, I'm going through a process where I'm discovering stuff about myself. I'm like, this is not me. I'm in denial about it because I'm like, I am this perfect human being that I've created myself, an epitome of being perfect. Understanding like I'm that perfect person that I can do X, B, C, D. I can eat my food, my fruits and vegetables. I can drink my water. Life is amazing. But then how do you treat other people? How do you show up in relationships? How do you show up as a person, as an individual? And you can never know truly how to show up well if you don't know your values, if you don't know your identity. And when I talk about identity, I'm not talking about, as I said, some of us identify ourselves with what we do. I'm a lecturer, or I am a mother, or I am a wife. Those are amazing. Like, I love those titles. But is that really it? Is that all about my life? Is that all that I'm created to be? There's surely more to life, more than just being a wife, being a mother, a sister, or whatever. And so you can begin to understand your purpose, your values, your inner self, your identity, when you take time to begin this journey of spiritually resetting. How can you spiritually reset? I've mentioned retreats, really good time to get on retreats by yourself, really good time to have like rest days, really good times to practice Sabbath rhythms where you're like, I will have a day where I just get back to connect with myself, connect with my maker, connect with my creator, connect with my spirituality, because we live in a very busy world, and before you realize, you just become like a doing being rather than a human being. We were never created to be doing beings. We were created to be human beings, to be before we do. And so when you do those spiritual resets, you get to a point where you have the rhythm of being rather than doing. And then if you go to exercise, you're exercising from the position of, I know who I am. I'm not competing against my brother. I'm not competing against my sister. I'm competing against myself because I don't have a problem being me. I understand who I am, I understand whose I am, and that will be a foundation and the basis of your relationship and how you show up in the relationships. And so today was the third installment. We quickly looked at spiritual reset, and I mentioned some of the things you can do. honoring Sabbath, having those times of resetting, solitude moments, stillness, being able just to stay in silence. Sometimes we don't have to always talk. We don't have to be always the ones with the last word. Rina can see you, right? I love talking. I say, as a matter of fact, I get paid to talk, right? As a matter of fact, I'm somebody that can talk and talk and talk and talk, but sometimes you just have to be silent. And in those moments of silence, you begin to really ground yourself. You begin to understand who really the core of you is. When the noise fades away, right? When everything around you fades away and you're left with you, you are left with the core of you, understanding in the sense that you can't be able to get to that point. You're like, I'm not afraid of the silence. I'm not afraid of meeting with me in that place of seeking to know my maker and my creator very well. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of being myself in that moment of silence, in that moment of solitude, in that moment of being, right? I see you really say, I should be a public speaker. I don't know about that, but I just feel motivated to talk about some of the things that we can do to be better people this year. This is the journey that I'm on. And I know that I talk about health, I talk about nutrition, I talk about all these kind of things. But if you're not right in here, if you're not healthy in your spirit, my goodness, if you're not right in your spirit, all these other things are waste of time. And that's something I'm coming to the realization with myself. I've spent a lot of my time investing in gyms, investing in physical activity, running miles and miles every year. But I've never taken time to be introspective, looking deep within and saying, Claire, what's the core value of you? Who is Claire really? And I'm starting to unravel things and I'm like, oh my world, God help me. And for sure, Dream says the silence helps you think about your feelings. And that's something that somebody told me today. Honestly, my entire life, I've never known that emotions take only 90 seconds. I've always thought my emotions are forever. My feelings are forever. And this lady was telling me it takes only 90 seconds. If you can take just 90 seconds to process your emotions, to process your feelings, 90 or 100% of the conflicts that we end up with can actually be avoided. And so it's just a challenge to us. Let's take time and be rather than do. Let's take time and reset spiritually and be present and enjoy being ourselves in our own company with our maker. I won't take long. As I said, I only have a couple of minutes to jump onto another meeting. So thank you so much for catching up with us. Have a great evening. I will catch up again with you next week, which will be our episode 21. Until then, my prayer for is that you will prosper and be in good health, even as your souls prosper. Know that you're loved, celebrated, and appreciated. God bless you and see you again very soon. Goodbye and good night.